examine what Khashoggi's death means for Saudi Arabia with Calvin Dark, president of CD Global Strategies. He joins us now in Washington. Very welcome to the show, sir. Now, undoubtedly, Saudi Arabia has seen its reputation damaged since we saw the disappearance of Khashoggi. But the question, Calvin, still remains, will there be any material economic impact on the country with companies and governments worldwide under pressure to abandon their ties to its leadership?
Yes, I think that there will be what I call two levels of consequences. I think in the short term, you're going to see kind of what you saw at the lead up to this investment conference, that be it private companies or governments, they have to answer to their constituents or investors. And the public opinion is very much against Saudi in that respect. So it will cause short-term economic consequences for Saudi Arabia in terms of less partnerships, less investment. Now, for the long term, what I think the biggest takeaway is going to be is that the partnerships that Saudi Arabia has with the U.S. and all other partners, be it on military issues, counterterrorism, energy, economic investment, they're going to be under a lot more scrutiny. And frankly, I think it should have been under more scrutiny in the first place. So that is another positive that's going to come out of this in the long term.
Now, of course, there have been signs, Calvin. For example, we saw Germany holding back weapons exports for Saudi Arabia. Also, Trump wavered a little bit there, but his faith in Prince Mohammed seems to or appears to be ebbing now. But can these nations and companies really afford to lose Saudi Arabia as a customer?
No, they can't. And I think that the kind of hesitance that you saw on the part of President Trump in the beginning of this showed that, he was giving the Crown Prince and the Saudi government the benefit of the doubt because he knew, and this was his public justification, that there were American jobs and American investment at stake. But when the public pressure mounted as it has, that outweighed the economic benefits. Now, let me tell you, one of the quotes that I saw yesterday was from the Pakistani Prime Minister who attended the conference, and he was honest. He said that their financial situation was desperate and they couldn't afford not to go. And that's real talk.
And a sort of similar situation here in Africa. We've seen governments in nations like South Sudan and Somalia suddenly come out to support Saudi Arabia's leadership. Others have pretty much remained mum. What are your thoughts on Africa's response to what's happened?
Well, first, what I want to say is that all countries, no matter what level of development or economic prosperity, has an obligation to stand up for international principles of fairness, protecting freedom of speech and the press, and standing up against these tragedies. Now, that being said, it's a lot harder to do if your economy is already struggling. And so it puts a lot of African countries between a rock and a hard place because these are very difficult decisions. But what I think this could be an opportunity for the United States to show more leadership and let African countries know that they don't have to be afraid to stand up for their values and lose progress towards their economic goals, and that the U.S. would step in and help them. Now, is that going to happen? That remains to be seen, and it's kind of doubtful. But I think it's an opportunity that the U.S. and the Trump administration should take advantage of.
Well, as always, great to see you, Calvin. Thanks for joining us on the show today. Calvin Dark, he is the president of CD Global Strategies Group.